You've been lied to about standards. Society tells you to be realistic, to accept good enough, to lower your expectations so you won't be disappointed. They call it being humble, being flexible, being a team player. But here's what they don't tell you. Every time you tolerate mediocrity, you're training yourself to expect less. From others, from your work, from your life, and eventually from yourself. Ayn Rand saw this differently. She didn't build a career by accepting what was acceptable. She didn't write novels that changed millions of lives by settling for good enough. She understood something most people never learn. Your standards aren't just preferences. They're the architecture of your future. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how Ayn Rand built unstoppable standards and why refusing to tolerate mediocrity isn't arrogance. It's self-respect. You'll see how to apply this in your relationships, your career, and your own development. And you'll understand why the people who tell you to lower your standards are usually the ones who can't meet them. Let's start with the problem most people don't even realize they have. Here's the problem. You've been conditioned to tolerate mediocrity since childhood. Think about it. When you were a kid and you complained about something unfair, what did adults say? Life isn't fair. When you wanted more from a situation, they told you to be grateful for what you have. When you refused to accept less than you deserved, they called you demanding, spoiled, ungrateful. So you learned to lower your voice, to accept the lazy group project partner, to stay quiet when the restaurant got your order wrong, to smile when your friend canceled plans for the third time. You learned that having standards makes you difficult, that expecting excellence makes you unreasonable. And here's what happened. You started applying those lowered standards to yourself. You stayed in the relationship that felt empty because, at least he's nice. You took the job that bored you because it pays the bills. You surrounded yourself with people who didn't challenge you because they mean well. Every compromise felt small, manageable, realistic, but compromises compound. That coworker who does half the work but takes equal credit, you tolerate it. That friend who only calls when they need something, you accept it. That version of yourself that's capable of so much more, you ignore it. And one day you wake up and realize your entire life is built on good enough, unacceptable, on fine. The consequences aren't dramatic. There's no single moment of collapse. It's quieter than that. It's the slow erosion of what you could have been. It's opportunities you don't pursue because you've trained yourself not to expect much. It's relationships that drain you because you've normalized being undervalued. It's work that doesn't fulfill you because you've accepted that fulfillment isn't realistic. You become a person who settles, and settling becomes your identity. This is what Ayn Rand refused to accept. And she had a completely different framework for thinking about standards. Ayn Rand didn't see standards as optional. She saw them as moral imperatives. In her philosophy, your standards are a direct expression of your self-esteem. They're not about judging others. They're about defining what you will and won't accept in your own life. And that definition matters because it determines the kind of person you become. Let me break this into 3 parts. Part 1. Standards are about your values. Rand argued that a rational person identifies their values clearly. What do you actually want from life? What kind of work fulfills you? What kind of relationships nourish you? What kind of person do you want to be? Once you know your values, your standards become non-negotiable. Not because you're rigid, but because accepting less than your values means betraying yourself. If you value honesty, you don't keep liars in your inner circle. If you value excellence in your work, you don't produce mediocre output. If you value growth, you don't surround yourself with people who want you to stay small. Your standards are the boundaries that protect your values. And compromising them isn't flexibility, it's self-betrayal. Part 2. Mediocrity is a choice. Here's where Rand gets controversial. She believed that tolerating mediocrity in others enables their parasitism. When you accept half effort from a colleague, you're subsidizing their laziness with your competence. When you stay in a relationship with someone who doesn't match your investment, you're funding their emotional freeloading with your energy. Rand called this the sanction of the victim. You become the victim when you grant moral approval to people who don't earn it. Your tolerance doesn't make you kind, it makes you complicit in your own diminishment. She wasn't saying everyone must be excellent at everything. She was saying, don't reward people for not trying. Don't give your time, energy, or respect to people who refuse to meet basic standards of reciprocity, effort, and integrity. Part 3. High standards create high performance. Rand understood something that sounds harsh but is liberating. You become like the people you tolerate. If you accept mediocrity around you, you normalize it within you. If you demand excellence from others, you elevate your own performance to match. This isn't about being better than others for ego. It's about rational self-interest. You have one life. Limited time, limited energy. Every hour you spend with someone who drains you is an hour you're not spending becoming who you could be. Every project you half complete trains your brain that half completion is acceptable. Your standards are the filter that determines what enters your life. And what enters your life determines who you become. Now, what this is not perfectionism. Perfectionism is neurotic. It's the fear of failure disguised as high standards. Rand's view is the opposite. It's the confidence to pursue your values without apology. This is not arrogance. Arrogance is thinking you're better than you are. High standards mean knowing what you're capable of and refusing to accept less from yourself. This is not cruelty. You don't owe anyone your time, energy, or approval just because they want it. Saying no to mediocrity is saying yes to your own life. Rand believed that self-respect requires standards. And standards require the courage to disappoint people who want you to settle. Now let's see how this works in practice. Let me show you how this plays out in 3 areas of life. Application 1. Relationships. Meet Sarah. She's been dating Marcus for 2 years. Marcus is nice. He doesn't cheat. He doesn't yell. By conventional standards, he's a good boyfriend. But here's what Sarah won't admit to herself. Marcus doesn't grow. He's had the same entry-level job for 5 years and complains about his boss but never applies anywhere else. He talks about starting a business but never takes a single action. He says he'll read the book Sarah recommends, but he never does. Sarah tells herself she's being supportive. That love means accepting people as they are, that pushing him would be controlling. But here's the truth, Sarah has high standards for herself. She reads constantly. She got promoted twice in 2 years. She invests in her health, her skills, her future. And every day she's with Marcus, she's training herself that growth is optional, that ambition is negotiable, that settling is love. The Rand lens is clear. You don't owe someone a relationship just because they're not actively terrible. Relationships aren't charity. They're voluntary exchanges of value. And if someone isn't bringing value that matches yours, you're not helping them by staying, you're enabling their stagnation while stunting your own growth. Sarah's real choice isn't between Marcus and being alone. It's between a life where she's constantly lowering herself to meet someone else's mediocrity, or a life where she finds a partner who challenges her to grow. High standards mean refusing the first option even when it's comfortable. Application 2. Work and career. Now meet James. He works at a mid-sized company in a team of 5. 3 of his teammates do the bare minimum. They show up late to meetings, miss deadlines, submit work that James has to fix. And management doesn't care because the team hits its numbers, mostly because James covers for everyone. James tells himself it's not worth making waves. That being a team player means picking up slack. That this is just how workplaces operate. But here's what's actually happening. James is subsidizing incompetence with his competence. His coworkers have no incentive to improve because James absorbs the consequences of their mediocrity. And James? He's not getting promoted. Why would they promote him? He's too valuable exactly where he is carrying people who should be fired. The Rand lens. Your excellence should benefit you, not compensate for others' laziness. When you enable mediocrity at work, you're not being noble, you're being exploited. And you're teaching your company that excellence doesn't need to be rewarded because excellent people will perform regardless. James needs to stop fixing other people's work. Let the mediocrity show. Let deadlines be missed by the people who miss them. Let managers see who actually produces value. This isn't sabotage, it's honesty. And if the company won't recognize his value when it's visible, that tells James everything he needs to know about whether he should stay. High standards at work mean refusing to be the safety net for people who won't carry their weight. Your competence is yours. Don't donate it to people who haven't earned it. Application 3. Self-development. Finally, meet Lisa. Lisa wants to write a book. She's wanted to write it for 3 years. She has the idea. She has the time. She watches 2 hours of Netflix every night. But she tells herself she's not ready, that she needs to read more books first. Take another course. Wait for inspiration. The truth? Lisa is tolerating mediocrity in herself. She accepts the version of herself who talks about writing instead of writing, who consumes content instead of creating it, who waits for perfect conditions that will never come. She set her standards so low that wanting to write counts as the same thing as writing. The Rand lens. Self-development isn't about motivation. It's about integrity. Either you are the kind of person who does what you say you'll do, or you're not. Either your actions match your stated values, or they don't. Lisa says she values creativity and growth, but her behavior says she values comfort and distraction. High standards mean holding yourself to the identity you claim. If you say you're a writer, write. If you say health matters, go to the gym. If you say growth is important, do the hard thing that creates growth. Your standards for yourself create your self-respect. And self-respect doesn't come from good intentions, it comes from consistent action. Lisa doesn't need another course or another book. She needs to sit down and write badly for 3 months until she writes well. That's the only path. And refusing to walk it is choosing mediocrity. In all 3 cases, relationships, work, and self-development, the principle is the same. Your standards determine your trajectory. Tolerate mediocrity, and mediocrity becomes your ceiling. Demand excellence, and excellence becomes possible. But here come the objections. Objection 1. Isn't this just arrogance? Who are you to judge others? Let's be clear about what arrogance actually is. Arrogance is claiming superiority you haven't earned. It's pretending to be more than you are. That's not what we're talking about. Having standards means knowing your values and refusing to compromise them. That's not arrogance, that's self-respect. You're not claiming to be better than everyone else. You're claiming the right to choose who and what you allow in your life. Ayn Rand addressed this directly. She said judgment is not only moral, it's necessary. A rational person must judge, must discern, must evaluate whether people, opportunities, and situations align with their values or contradict them. The refusal to judge isn't virtue, it's evasion. It's pretending that all choices are equal, so you never have to make a hard one. Here's the test. If you have a business, do you hire anyone who applies or do you judge their competence? If you're choosing a surgeon, do you pick randomly or do you judge their skill? Of course you judge, you evaluate, you have standards. So why would you apply less rigor to your relationships? Your friendships? Your own development? The people who tell you that having standards is judgmental are usually the people who can't meet them. They want you to abandon discernment so their mediocrity goes unchallenged. Rand would say, judge rationally. Evaluate honestly. And align your life with people and pursuits worthy of your time. That's not arrogance, that's sanity. Objection 2. But what if I hurt people by enforcing my standards? This is the objection that keeps most people trapped. The fear of disappointing others. Of being called mean, difficult, cold. Here's Rand's answer. You are not responsible for other people's feelings about your boundaries. If someone feels hurt because you won't tolerate their half-effort at work, that's their problem, not yours. If someone feels rejected because you won't stay in a relationship that doesn't fulfill you, that's their emotional responsibility, not a moral claim on your life. If someone feels judged because you pursue excellence and they don't, that discomfort is theirs to manage. You cannot live your life trying to protect everyone from the consequences of their own choices. When you stay in the mediocre relationship to avoid hurting someone's feelings, you're sacrificing your happiness to spare them discomfort. That's not compassion, it's self-betrayal disguised as kindness. Rand believed in voluntary interaction. That means both people choose to be there because it serves their rational self-interest. A relationship where one person stays out of guilt isn't voluntary, it's coercion. And coercion, even emotional coercion, is immoral. Here's the reality. Enforcing your standards will upset some people. The lazy coworker will call you difficult. The draining friend will call you selfish. The stagnant partner will call you unreasonable. Let them. Their opinion of you is not more important than your integrity. Their comfort is not more valuable than your future. And here's what else is true. The people worth having in your life will respect your standards. They'll rise to meet them or gracefully step aside. The ones who attack you for having standards are the ones who benefit from you not having them. Rand's standard was simple. Never feel guilty for refusing to sacrifice yourself to someone else's mediocrity. Your life belongs to you. And you owe no one an apology for living it on your terms. Now let me show you what happens when you actually apply this. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Before. The life of compromise. Meet David at 32. He's a software developer at a company that doesn't challenge him. He's capable of senior-level work but stays in a mid-level role because his manager is incompetent, and David doesn't want to deal with office politics. He tells himself it's not worth the stress. His girlfriend Emma is fine. She's stable, predictable, but she has no ambition. She complains about her job but never applies anywhere else. She talks about traveling but never saves money. She wants David to be happy with us just being us. David tells himself that passion fades anyway. That this is what mature love looks like. His friend group hasn't changed since college. They meet every weekend to drink beer and complain about their lives. No one is building anything. No one is growing. They mock David when he mentions wanting to start a side project. You think you're better than us? They joke. David laughs it off, stops mentioning his ideas. David's days blur together. Work. Couch. Repeat. He's not miserable, but he's not alive. He's 32 and feels 50. His life is acceptable, comfortable, safe, and completely devoid of meaning. This is what tolerating mediocrity creates. A life you don't hate enough to change, but don't love enough to defend. The shift one day, David reads Atlas Shrugged. And one line hits him like a punch. The question isn't who is going to let me. It's who is going to stop me. He realizes no one is stopping him. He's stopping himself by accepting less, by tolerating mediocrity, by sacrificing his potential to avoid disappointing people who aren't even trying. So David makes a decision. He's going to enforce standards starting now. AFTER, the life of standards. David starts with work. He stops covering for his incompetent manager. When deadlines are missed, he documents exactly why and who's responsible. Within 3 months, his manager is reassigned. David applies for the senior role. Gets it, 40% raise. He has the conversation with Emma. I need a partner who's growing, not staying still. I love you, but I can't build a future with someone who won't build themselves. Emma is hurt, angry, calls him selfish. But David doesn't apologize. 3 months later, Emma texts him. She got a new job, started saving, joined a gym. She thanks him. They don't get back together, but David learns something crucial. His standards didn't crush her. They freed her. David stops going to the friend group hangouts. He joins a startup community. Finds people building businesses, learning skills, pushing themselves. In 6 months, he launches his side project. It's not huge yet, but it's real. And the people around him celebrate it instead of mocking it. At 34, David's life is unrecognizable. He's in a relationship with someone who challenges him. He's doing work that excites him. He's surrounded by people who elevate him. He's not just surviving, he's building something. And here's what he says: I wasted years being afraid of seeming arrogant, of losing people, of being alone. But enforcing my standards didn't make me arrogant, it made me honest. I didn't lose people, I lost dead weight. And I was never alone. I just cleared space for the right people to find me. The pattern: this is what happens when you stop tolerating mediocrity. Your life reorganizes around excellence. The people who can't meet your standards leave. The opportunities that don't serve you fall away. And what remains is a life that's actually yours. It won't be comfortable. Sarah will lose friends who liked her better when she settled. James will have conflicts at work when he stops being everyone's safety net. Lisa will face her own resistance when she sits down to write. But discomfort is the price of growth. And growth is the price of self-respect. Ayn Rand built unstoppable standards by understanding one truth. You don't rise by lowering the bar. You rise by refusing to accept anything beneath it. Now here's what you do next. Let's bring this together. You've been taught that having standards makes you difficult. That tolerating mediocrity makes you humble. That lowering your expectations protects you from disappointment. But Ayn Rand saw the truth. Your standards aren't just preferences. They're the architecture of your future. Every time you accept less than you deserve in relationships, you train yourself that you're not worth more. Every time you tolerate half-effort at work, you subsidize incompetence with your excellence. Every time you let yourself off the hook for not pursuing your goals, you weaken your own integrity. Mediocrity isn't neutral. It's corrosive. It compounds. And one day you wake up in a life you never consciously chose, you just accepted it piece by piece. Rand understood. High standards aren't about judging others, they're about protecting your values. And your values determine who you become. Here's your challenge. Identify one area where you're tolerating mediocrity right now. Just one. Maybe it's the relationship that drains you, the job that bores you, the friend who only takes. The version of yourself that talks instead of acts. Now ask yourself Rand's question. Is this worthy of my life? Not, is it acceptable? Not, could it be worse? Is it worthy of the one life you have? If the answer is no, you have two choices. Raise the standard or remove yourself from the situation. There is no third option that leads to self-respect. This won't be comfortable. People will push back. They'll call you selfish, arrogant, unrealistic. Let them. Their opinion of your standards is not more important than your integrity. And here's what you'll discover. When you stop tolerating mediocrity, excellence becomes possible. The right people appear. The right opportunities emerge. Your life reorganizes around what actually matters. You don't rise by lowering the bar. You rise by refusing to accept anything beneath it. If this resonates, subscribe to see more life through the Rand lens. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next video where I'll break down Ayn Rand's philosophy on one of the most misunderstood concepts: selfishness versus self-sacrifice. You'll see why what you've been taught about helping others is backwards and what rational morality actually looks like. Drop a comment. What's one standard you're done compromising on? Stop tolerating mediocrity. Your future self will thank you.